We've all seen the account flipping challenges on how you can go from $100 to $10,000 in a super fast amount of time. But realistically, after I've been day trading for over a decade and I've seen all of that and I've tried all of that, how can you realistically go from like 0 to 100K as fast as possible? Well, let's abolish this one belief. One, 0 is not really possible. You have to have some money. And for this, let's just say 500 bucks. Because 500, I think, is that amount that everybody, no matter how much you make, you can save $500, right? Whether it takes you a month to save it, whether it takes you 6 months to save it, you can save at least $500 in cash. So how are we going to go from this 500 to 100K? Obviously, we understand to make money in trading, there's going to be a few things that we need. One is we're going to need an edge. That's the most important part. Two, we're going to need time. And three, we're going to need consistency. As long as you have these three keys, this can be something that's possible. Now, what is an edge? Edge is just something that you know works in the market. In other words, you know that with my strategy, with the win rate, with the risk to reward, whatever, I know that I have a edge in the market that's greater than 1 for my profit factor. If you have no idea what profit factor is, go watch the video titled Profit Factor. But say the profit factor is like a 1.1, right? Not a huge edge, but regardless, it is a edge. Now, second thing we need is time, because all things happen in time. So if I want to go from 500 to 100K, well, obviously I know I need to execute trades that have an edge that win over time, right? So I need to give it a little bit of time to work. Whether that time is a month, whether that time is 2 months, whether that time is a year, 5 years, whatever, it really depends on your edge. And consistency, well, this is kind of self-explanatory. It doesn't make sense. It does no good to be able to have an edge and you have time to execute that edge if you don't execute it consistently. Consistently in the standpoint of every single day and consistently to the standpoint of your edge. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is so many traders spend so much time developing an edge that is amazing, right? A huge profit factor, let's just say a profit factor of like 2.1 over the span of like a year, 2 years, whatever, right? Great strategy. However, they don't consistently trade the edge, right? They may trade it consistently, but when it comes to actually trading their edge, they tweak things. They get out sooner than they should get out. They get in sooner than they should get in, and they kind of modify their strategy on a case by case basis. In other words, they're not trading it consistently. So if we match all of these three things up together, and if you do all of these three things right now, well, hey, perfect, you're on the right boat. And one thing that's super notable to just point out is that when it comes to consistency, the biggest enemy to consistency is emotions. So if you have emotions, you can't possibly be consistent. It's not possible because you're either not going to consistently trade with time, meaning trading every single day, or you're not going to consistently trade with edge, meaning that you're executing your exact strategy every single trade, not getting in too early, not getting out too late, not holding losers, not cutting winners, but you're consistent. Emotions are the number one thing. I can even write it here. Emotions are truly that number one thing that prevent people from making this jump from this 500 over to this 100K or 1 million or 10 million. It doesn't matter what the number is. This is the framework. This is a strategy for it. So in this, obviously, we need to figure out how to kill out these emotions so that we're able to consistently do these two steps. And the only way that I have found that's consistent is simply through this. Hopefully y'all can see that. Boom. It's a system, right? And if you've been following the channel, you know exactly what a system is, but essentially a system is something that takes your emotions out of trading, that you use your strategy that has the edge in order to trade it consistently. So great, now that I have a system instead of a strategy that I trade with, I'm able to trade emotionless and I can do these three steps. Now, how do I actually turn that 500 into 100K? I see so many traders, and these are traders that I will never work with or advise, whatever. But I see so many traders that try to get this 500K and they literally try to flip it to like 100K or $1,000 or 2,000. And to me, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in the world. Because if you have a low amount of capital, the absolute best thing you can do, and I'm not a big fan of these places for other reasons, but if you have a low amount of capital, the absolute best thing in the world you can do is get this money, and instead of trying to flip it to 100K, get this money and try to buy 100K. There's a difference between trying to make 100K, which is here, and trying to buy 100K. What do I mean by that? I mean, go out and get a funded challenge. I'm not going to name names, but there's a lot of different providers in the futures market, in the Forex market. I even think they have some in the crypto market now where you can actually spend $500 for the possibility to gain a 100K account if you pass their evaluation, whatever. And if you have these three things on lock, and for my older crowd that doesn't know what unlock means, if you have these three things set, you're ready, these things are perfect, right? You have the edge, you have the time, and you're consistently trading time, you're consistently trading edge. Well, now when you do that challenge, it's a very high likelihood that you're actually going to pass it and that you're actually going to be awarded a 100K account. Perfect. Now what? Now, I think it's a lot easier to make $100,000 if you have a $100,000 account than it would be to make $100,000 with only $500. I think that's a pretty simple math equation, right? But what about this? What if I spend the 500, pass the challenge, get 100K, and then let's say in the first month, let's say I do 5% that first month, right? And that 5% in the first month, well, that's going to relate to most likely you getting about 4K in payouts, right? Because you take 80% of whatever you make. But now with that 4K, instead of me trying to flip that 4K into 100K or just keep trading this $100,000 account, until whenever, and that amasses to 100K, instead, I'm going to take this 4K and I'm going to invest that 4K. And instead of a 100K in accounts, I'm going to get 1 million in accounts, right? I can actually go out and spend $4,000. I can go out and spend $4,000, maybe a tad bit more, but get either 1 million or 800K, whatever, but I can get an amount very close to this $1 million figure with $4,000 to $5,000. So now I'm gonna do the same steps. I have all of this on lock. I have the edge, I have the time, I have the consistency. So all I'm gonna do is spend the money I made from my first payout in order to get this, $1 million worth of funded capital, combined with the original 100K account I bought back here. So now we passed that challenge because all of this is on lock, all of this is good. And guess what? Here's the beautiful part. If you don't pass the challenge, it's fine because you still have your 100K account here. So you do another profitable month with your 100K account, guess what? You have another $4,000, you have another $5,000, another $6,000, whatever, to invest into more accounts. And you get to this 800K in funded accounts, $1 million in funded accounts. Guess what? I think it's a lot easier to make 100K off of a $1 million funded account or a 100 or an 800K funded account than it would be to make $100,000 off a $100,000 account. Here, you need a 100% profit gain in order to make your 100K goal. Here, you only need a 10% profit gain. And the great thing about percentages is it doesn't matter how big the total is, the same amount of work is required. So just as much work that you had to do in order to make 5% on your 100K account is the same amount of work that you need to do to make 5% on your $1 million account. You just have more that you're trading with. In other words, you have more leverage. So now when you have a 5% month on $1 million of funded accounts, guess what? You just made $50,000 and most of them have like an 80 to 90% profit split. So that means that realistically, you just made 40K. And now if you have about 2 to 3 months with those same results, then you have reached your 100K goal. That is, in my opinion, the simplest and the absolute fastest way that you can scale as earthly possible fast when it comes to the investing, swing trading, day trading market. Now, the great question, $1 million question is, okay, well, RD, look, how can I get this edge? How can I get that winning strategy that works well? And how can I be able to trade it consistently Get a system. I don't care if you learn how to create a system for me or somebody else. I don't see anybody else right now teaching systems on YouTube or the internet. That's why I'm here. But you need a system, because as long as you trade a strategy, it's going to be very hard to stay consistent, because you might not have the time to trade. You might not have the emotional discipline to consistently trade your strategy, right? And when we're talking about trading, we're talking about trading over the span of years. Imagine if you're making this 40K or 50K a month on this 1 mil account over the span of 4 to 5 years. Where would your life be? Where would you end up if you're making that type of money every single month from trading alone, without having to spend a bunch of time on a chart, without having to spend a bunch of time with emotional management, without having to spend a bunch of time trying to learn all of these 50,000 different strategies? What if you were able to create a system that consistently and reliably pulled this type of money, this type of percentage out of the market every single month? That's the mindset that I want you to get to. And that's the mindset that you need to be at in order to make the shift from here to here. Because I promise you, it is easier than you think. But if you're trading a strategy, it will be difficult, because emotions are always going to come in. And as we know, that is literally the one thing that is standing between the you right now in the market and the you that you want to become in the market. This is RD Trades, and I'm out.